We have just talked about the 4 strategies which fall in between the deliberate and emergent strategy continuum. These were planned, entrepreneurial, umbrella, and other one. Now we move on to the next 4 strategies. These are process, unconnected, consensus, and imposed strategies. Now let us take them one by one. The first is the process strategy. You all know that in the strategic management literature, it is also argued that the strategy is not only a substance, it is also a process. So actually, this particular type of strategy represents the strategy development as a process. I would like to elaborate this particular point further. Actually, it happens that you also know that the organizations are also of different size, different kind, and there are different structures. According to the size, structure, and form of the organization, the type of strategy can be different. For instance, as in this particular case we'll be learning, the central unit of the organization allows a good amount of autonomy to other units. And as the control mechanism, it actually prescribes a process of strategy development. And being the process prescription, or within the process prescription, units are given good autonomy to develop their own strategies. So from organization's point of view, from center's point of view, the developed strategies would be emergent. But from the unit's point of view, strategies would be deliberate. This is an important point. The Mintzberg has actually pointed out in his articles that deliberate or emergent, this form of strategy can be from the viewpoint of the level of the organization. For example, in this particular case, we'll see that from the point of view of the center, the strategy is emergent because center has not conceived that strategy. Rather, under the broader prescriptions of process, unit has conceived that. For the center, that is emergent, but for the unit, that is the deliberate strategy. So this is the possibility. Let's see now what is process strategy. Strategies originate in process. Strategies originate in process. Leadership controls process aspects of strategy. As I mentioned, hiring and structure. Leaving content aspects to other actors. Strategy is partly deliberate, partly emergent, and again deliberately emergent. This is a good mix. For conveying you the theme of the process strategy, I would take the example, 2 examples I will take here. One, the example of a university. A standard university actually is the collection of many units, many institutes, colleges and departments. And most of its units are autonomous within the broader limits of the university. There is a central management or a governance structure in a university. And a university is generally governed by a charter or a law or an act. This particular law of the university, the act or the ordinance or the charter, this prescribes a process guideline for its different units and departments to offer different programs. Mean that they do not prescribe that what to offer. They prescribe a process by which university department, college or institute or a unit can develop and offer a program to the general public. So what happens? In a university, programs are not offered at university level, but at a department level or institute or college level. So what do the colleges or the units do? They simply follow the given process, and under that process, they introduce or launch their programs, study programs for the general public. Actually, university at its level controls the quality and other things through the process, and it allows autonomy to its units. And units at their level conceive the programs as per their learning and they offer into the market. This is the one example. And you have noted that this is the process strategy. Number 2 example is the example of a parliamentarian democracy like Pakistan is. Pakistan is a federation. It has got different federal units. 4 are the provinces. Then there are federally administrated areas. Then there is the state of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, which is also affiliated with Pakistan. And there is another semi-province of Pakistan, which is Gilgit-Baltistan. So actually, the center of the Federation of Pakistan has prescribed a specific process for lawmaking and other things for the federating units. And federating units are autonomous in their many decision making, but they have to follow a prescribed process. So these are the 2 examples. So that's the reason you find out different things in the different federating units of Pakistan. And from the federation's point of view, that these things are emergent, but from the unit's point of view, these are deliberate. And resultantly at country level and previously at the university level, the strategies are supposed to be deliberately emergent. And this is the example or a diagram which actually shows that the arrows coming from up and down, these are the process arrows, and within which you see that there are the strategies at the unit level. Next one is the unconnected strategy. The strategies are unconnected in single organization. Let's see what is this. Strategies originate in enclaves and ventures. So this is an organization in which there are enclaves, there are many autonomous units, and there are different ventures where strategy originate actually, and the center has got no role in that. Actors loosely coupled to rest of organization produce patterns in own actions in absence of or indirect contradiction to central or common intentions. Strategies organizationally emergent, whether or not deliberate for actors. Let's see its example first. Main example, I believe, in the sense of diagram. You see that in the unconnected strategy, there is a dark line which actually is there, the organizational boundary. In that, you see the number 1 and 2. In number 1, you see there is a one straight planned strategy. In number 2, there is the trend of emergence resultantly. Actually, in case of such organizations which has got units loosely arranged with it, and this is the example of a diversified organization which has got many, for example, one unit of the organization is in the business of education, another in the business of media, another in the business of bakery, another in the business of property, another in the business of mining, another in the business of automobile. So the organization has got all its units in all different businesses. So it is not possible for the organization to craft strategy for them. So there is the opportunity to the units that they can come up with their own strategy, and resultantly the strategies emerging there are actually unconnected strategies in the organization. The next one is the consensus strategy. Remember that what is consensus strategy? Its essence is that in organization, in the different units of the organizations, different decisions are taken. As the result of different decisions, different strategies emerge, and then at a particular point on time, these strategies are coordinated by the central management and a consensus is developed. So actually strategies emerge, but at a later stage these are coordinated and a consensus is developed. You see that this is what the diagrammatical representation of that. You see that the strategies are coming from different units in different emerging, and resultantly they are following one single line. Let us see what consensus strategies say. Strategies originate in consensus through mutual adjustment. Actors converge on patterns that become pervasive in absence of central or common intentions. Strategies rather emergent. But this is the form in which actually strategies are emergent, do not have to follow a particular pattern, but they converge into a particular consensus. The last one is the imposed strategy. You see that we are in an environment, and sometimes our environment is so powerful that it imposes something on us. You know that what is environment? I believe you know. Environment consists of all the actors, factors which are outside the organization, and especially outside the direct control of the organization. Let's see what is the imposed strategy. I would be explaining it later on. Strategies originate in environment. Environment dictates patterns and actions, either through direct imposition or through implicitly preempting or bounding organizational choice. Strategy is most emergent, although may be internalized by organization and made deliberate. Actually, there is the classical example Henry Mintzberg has discussed, and this is a useful example, I believe. He has taken the example of Air Canada. In the particular example, he discussed that Air Canada was to have its own strategy, but suddenly the relevant ministry or the minister desired the Air Canada to follow a particular route path and to fly a particular kind of planes. So Air Canada was not able to resist to that particular imposition. So it got the imposition, it followed the line given by the minister, it internalized the strategy, and it followed that particular path. Actually, it happens that sometimes, especially in case of the public sector organizations and those organizations which are under the strict regulators. Say I take the example of banking sector in Pakistan, which is closely and effectively regulated by the State Bank of Pakistan. State Bank of Pakistan at times, because it's a regulator which is to protect the interest of the public, whenever it finds out anything where it is to protect the public interest, it prescribes a certain course of action to the banks, and banks are bound to follow it. The typical or classical example in this sense is the SME banking or SME financing. Actually, State Bank of Pakistan, under the directions of the government of Pakistan, wanted to encourage the SME sector, which was not considered to be a lucrative sector or attractive sector for the banks. So State Bank of Pakistan imposed its strategy. It directed to the banks to start a percentage of their total exposure from the SME sector of the country. So the banks have to start the SME banking. Now same is the case with the Islamic banking products by the banking sector. This is also the initiative by the State Bank of Pakistan. Many of the banks were not intended to start SME banking exposure or Islamic banking products or even micro financing, but under the direction of the regulator, they had to internalize and impose strategy, and they had to follow that course of action. So this is the typical example of imposed strategy. You see that here one boundary is being pushed up, the down boundary, that is the imposition by the environment on the strategy. And conclusively, after discussing these different types of strategies, we can have this particular diagram in which you can see that the intended strategy, when realized, when it is fulfilled, it becomes deliberate strategy. And if it is not fulfilled, it becomes unrealized strategy. And emergent strategy, when it is achieved, it becomes the realized strategy. Hope it is clear to you that what actually happens in the real world organizations. Hope it is clear to you all that how in the real world actual strategies fall in between the two extremes of deliberate and emergent strategies. You have seen that actually strategies are either near to deliberation or emergence, or a good mix of deliberation and emergence. Thank you very much.